Well, about time. Been trying to get hold of some replays of myself for a while now, and we finally have some put forward by Coercer and Begil. So we'll have to see what comes of them, and we shall kick off this 2v2. Dune Sea, oh this should be interesting, with Begil as Coalition, Garm as Coalition, oh, shock horror, Empty Soul as Galcian, and Maez as Soban. We'll have to see here, but So here we have Begil in the turquoise or teal and red carrier, Gumlater in black, and then to the north, let's go over to production, boom, we have Maez in the red Saban, and we have Empty in his trademark pink. Keeping it stylish as always. So, we have both the Coalition base runners staying up, which is not surprising at all. Empty moving up with his, and getting a scanner out. Where's that going down? A reasonable position for a scanner. I'd prefer it further forwards, but the issue with this map is this central hill. So, as you can tell, it goes from the spawns, which are at ground level, very low down, and then it just rises up to this peak. That means if you control the middle, you effectively control the map, and the only thing balancing this is that there is some high ground behind the spawns that they can use defensively to hold out, but again, definitely not a situation you want to be in. Begil putting out LAVs early, and Garm doing the same. Quick expansions from both teams. Begil a little bit behind, obviously, so he could get these LAVs out first. And I'm going to be honest, there's no way that Empty and Maez are going to be able to hold this hill. 6 LAVs going up. 2 turrets are going to be on this hill. I mean, you get a better idea as to the kind of terrain you're dealing with from this angle. Controlling this point allows you to dictate combat towards the spawns. So yeah, they're going to get pushed quite hard by these LAVs, and the only thing they can really do is prevent forward turrets going down, but just means they'll be a bit further back. Let's go on trying to put it down. He's trying to put it down there. Not really the best of places for a turret, but there's there. This hill can be a little bit awkward. There's a bump there, as you can see, but that's going to be a dead LAV. Turret goes up. Yeah. Maez has rushed out an AAV. He's able to smoke that, but then see, the issue is he really needs to keep this healed. He can't afford to just, although he's going to get a few trades, he's not going to make his cash back because of this turret. The disparity in numbers is just too great. There's another AAV, so no, I've got to say, no, this is the right call. If it weren't for AAVs, this would be impossible to even threaten. Sticking with LAVs and skimmers, there's just no way. There's no reason for him to be too cautious with these AAVs. He wants to really surround and bully. The turret's going to be off cooldown. Cooldown on this is incredibly short, thinking about it. The BR turrets just come back up for availability a little bit too quick. And I think that's Maez just shifting power into the ALM system. These LAVs cannot be allowed to run rampant. They've got high ground back here they can use. Needs to split off these AAVs and deal with that. Meanwhile, we have Begil hitting Empty's expansion over here. This is really the issue. So, basically, what Begil and Garm have done is they've pushed those LAVs early, gotten this high ground, and then been able to push downhill. And while it looks like they're being pushed off, they're doing so much economy damage. And oh no, Maez, that's a really... You need to avoid this at all costs. I presume he was meant to have a support cruiser, but because there's 3 nodes here, 2 CU, 1 RU, you want your carrier, you want a drop-off point next to this at all times. Because they're having to travel over here, you're effectively about 1/3 as effective due to the travel time, and that's at least. Another turret on this hill. That said, this number of skimmers, yeah, they can overwhelm that, and then they could also push onto these LAVs. To these, yeah. So the extra armor helping keep that skimmer alive there. Do we have full no damage buffs yet? Now, really, Empty needs to be pushing in on these. He needs to separate these 2 damaged ones back to make sure they don't get picked off, which would be a complete waste. Yeah. No need to have lost that. He could have freely cleaned up most of these. He's got to be careful, though. With speed boost around 176 speed, which, yeah, the skimmers have got that 150 base speed, but got to be able to get out of range. Working with Maez. Now, Maez with these AAVs needs to be splitting up. Yeah, it's going to be too late now because rails are coming. So when you've got AAVs to counter this kind of play, you need to be breaking them off, because the way they're dealing with your AAVs is focusing them down. And the best thing your AAVs can be doing is getting into the back lines, hitting support cruisers, forcing them to split up their strike craft blob, or look at alternative options. But yeah, here, what you're now going to see is these parked up the back here. So if AAVs come in from the flanks or come around for a backstab, knock out economy, they're just going to get picked off by this handful of rails, and they can continue to focus on pushing in the meantime. Again, that uphill advantage working very nicely here. Looks like Empty's going to be able to get in and do some good damage. I mean, what are your best options pushing in like this? Because again, with enemies collapsing in behind you, yeah, you just want to do run-bys. You want to use it to pull the enemy back. You don't want to hang around. If Empty hangs around here too long, he can put himself in a very difficult position. These AAVs cannot back him up. It's good to get that support cruiser though, so maybe it's worth it. But if he loses these skimmers, that's map control gone for them. Again, as you can see, these railguns just back here punching holes in these AAVs, rendering their armor far less effective. Yeah, I'd say leaving 2 of these here, so just camping them behind this dune, and then breaking off with the other 2 to stick with the skimmers to continue sort of working as that buffer. I do feel like there's some strong synergy for strike craft blobs with AAVs at the moment, just for the suppression and the general threat, because really your opponent's going to pick those off separately so that they're not giving up easy kills, so they can maintain their speed. Now, what are we seeing in the mid-game here? No sign of air tech there. Nope, no air tech. By the looks of things. Nope, no markings. Rails, no AAV tech at all, so no move by Begil for cruisers, and the same for Garm later, and no sign of carrier power either. Bit of carrier, just the artifact pickup. What have we got? We've got heavy rails now coming from Empty. I would much rather see him rush on a guard cruiser in this situation. It is actually very viable if you're able to sort of hold a stalemate situation. You're able to keep pressure up on the map and prevent them feeling so eager as to push in. But really, I think it would have been better if Empty had held out on the top here and had Maez come in with those AAVs to support. Getting pushed all the way back here is at the mercy of these LAVs at the top of the hill. which is not going to end well for him. He's not going to be able to escape this engagement now. Garm later will just be able to speed boost. There is no reason to fight like this. He should just be pushing up the hill. He needs to get up the hill, get high ground off of Garm, because he's just not going to fare very well. He's... Oh, 1 second. What have we got there? No, it's just regular heavy rail fire. Trying to use the EMPs, but again, the slow wind up on it. Meanwhile, yeah, Begil has managed to punch through Maez. Again, keeping AAVs in one concentrated blob is not worth doing. You want them spread out so that they can give you a net. They need to be picking off and just making it difficult for Strikecraft to move freely. Really, he should take the power out of the range system here and focus it into the ALMs as well. Yeah, support cruiser does go down, and these Strikecraft are going to get out. Ah, now that's interesting. So to confirm, so LAVs, when they use their speed boost, they go from 110 to 176. They get 66 bonus speed. When suppressed, they're still getting that 66 speed bonus. That is not being debuffed. It is only the base speed that is impacted, which is very interesting. Again, AV is getting caught out in the open. Again, you can see the kind of eco difference here. Garm's got full economy. Looks like... Why is he not spitting out an extra support cruiser there? No, he's been powering up, so he's getting ready to just go into nuke missiles and, well, I say nuke missiles, cruise missiles, but they're basically a nuke, let's be honest. Begil's pretty comfortable getting ready to expand his third, whereas MT hasn't been able to move away from his first expansion, and Maez isn't doing much better. Again, this skimmer blob just doesn't have much value against these LAV blobs. So yeah, really the best way for MT to complement those skimmers would be a honor guard cruiser. Again, don't like this. You've got Strikecraft on your doorstep. You need to be using these armoured assaults to restrict their movement and punish them moving too far out. If you want to go for backstabs with AAVs, don't send the whole blob. Just send one. Just you know, queue orders, send it all the way around the back. Don't even think about it after that. It is one of the most beneficial aspects of AAVs, is that you can use them in a pretty sort of lazy fashion and leave them to their own devices, and they'll do damage. Even if it's just distracting your opponents. Now, what Garm's doing here, actually, he is powering this for vision, so he's just using this to scout what's going on over here. He's using it as a scouting tool, believe it or not. The extra damage he's able to do is just... there it is. Is that a nuke up? Cruise missile. And Maez's main economy is gone. Sitting on that high ground, the cruise missile goes from a 5,000 damage up to 7,500, so... pretty brutal. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Maez getting caught out over here, losing all of the rails that he essentially had these AVs there to help. And now these are going to get picked off as they try and come back to Begil's railguns. What kind of armour have these got? They've got no armour. Begil has not... He hasn't got the tech. There's no reason for for Maez to actually run from that, he could charge those with the AAVs and actually kill them very quickly. He's got much higher DPM than those rails do. So actually getting caught out there, what he should have done was smoked a path for him to approach the rails and then kill them. Because they've got no armor, and they're not going to have armor anytime soon. That is, in my opinion, a massive misplay. If Maez saw that, he could punish that quite hard with just AAVs. That is kind of a shame. But yeah, this is pretty much over now. What is Begil getting? Yeah, he's just powering up so that he can get cruise missile himself, and then their plan is to just bomb them out with cruise missiles. Right, I'm guessing Empty's already given up. And he's just waiting to get nuked to death. Probably the only thing I'd really put against Empty. He is quite willing to quit when he feels like it's over. And with cruise missiles being spammed at him from on top of the hill, I'm not surprised. Yeah, they're not going to be able to get far enough. Yeah. So with the high ground bonus, the outer radius of the nuke still sustains enough damage that pretty much nothing survives anyway. Even a railgun at the edge will still be killed. Now, again, looking at this, it really feels like if Maez had gone heavier on AAVs, he could have used staggered smoke to approach these railguns, and the railguns wouldn't have been able to do much about it. And the LAVs wouldn't have been able to cover them. Garm is the same thing, like, no armor on these. If AAVs can get to them, they will kill them very quickly. Okay, I suppose that's one way to try and clean up some of the blob, but not really worth it. That missile strike's going to be coming down for a while, and that's going to prevent chase. That would have been better placed on the hill there to clean up those rails. But yeah, double coal, double cruise missiles, just hold the mid ground and just essentially bombard the opponent out. But again, it was a case of seeding the hill early. On Dune C, if you are ever playing on Dune C, you are going to have to fight for that middle hill. There is no two ways about it. You need military early, and you need to fight for the hill. You need this center point. And you need to fight for it and hold it as best you can. If you find you can't, you need to pull back, and you need to use your high ground here. Again, I do agree with the AAV play, but I would argue if they'd been able to use smoke and the terrain here, they could have used AAVs to zone out more of the strike craft, and with those rails being unarmoured, they would have been able to push and kill them very quickly. And keep in mind, during a match, there's nothing that stops you from clicking on an opponent's unit and checking its upgrades. And some pretty good kills there, I've got to say. Maybe that is a viable use for the Galaxian Missile Barrage anti-LAV blob. It does feel like too little too late. Maez is completely out at this point, and it is just Empty who is waiting to be bombed out, basically. Yeah. That production cruiser could get out of the way. It's going to survive, which is good. Range calibration would be really useful right now. Oh, another cruise missile coming down, which I presume is coming down on those rails. Nope, on the carrier. They're just looking to focus that down. But yeah, this is a position you can never afford to get into. See, so there's two real weaknesses I'm seeing to Garm and Begil's play. One is the fact that they're not using this excess bank to upgrade their core units. Those railguns are incredibly vulnerable to any amount of fire. 2 is look at their back line. If you actually go for AVs against this, so you've lost that strike craft fight, you need to shift into, you're forced to shift into AVs. You need to be using those AVs not only to act as a buffer against the strike craft, but you need to be sending them around the flanks, the far sides, and keep on pressuring the economy. You want to deny them access to your economy so you can safely build up, but you also need to be hitting the enemy's economy. And again, taking one AV and giving it a path around the edge of the map is incredibly easy to do. Shift, click, and you're good to go. But again, I've got to say, well played by Garm and Begil. Made the right play early on. It's just, I really don't agree with this, with completely ignoring armor on your rails. It just doesn't sit well with me. Again, also, if you're going to go with the, let's say you've gone with assault ships, so in MT's case, you've gone with assault ships. It's difficult because they're slow, but yeah, it's still viable for them to go around the flanks, but they don't have the same raw DPM that AAVs have, which makes them so effective hitting economy. But really, the big weakness I see for Begil and Garm later is if people stop fighting them head on, coming around on those flanks is definitely the way. You've got to keep in mind that's not just from the perspective that you might do economy damage. Let's say they realise that's what you're doing. That's going to force them back. That's going to give you breathing room. That's going to split up their forces. And that makes a massive difference. Garmlator's style is very, very focused about being able to put all of his forces in one place and crush. But yeah, sorry about that, main blocks. I wasn't looking at the chat at the time. Very much focused on what was going on there. I'm pretty sure I missed half the fight anyway.